Welcome in again to I would say a very special edition of Fred Hunter's Alabama, because we have a very special guest here. His name is Jerry. I would describe him if I had to, and I don't have to, but I will. He's kind of a cross, if you know him, between, I don't know, Jerry Clower and Jerry Garcia. But his name is Jerry Clifton. I'm not sure which he may have or may not have been named after. But Jerry, thank you so much for coming down and making time in what I know is a busy schedule and running by to talk to us, running being the operative term. Thank you so much.
Well, Fred, thank you. I certainly appreciate it. And yes, running is the operative term. That is for sure, because I run, and then, of course, you know, we got a big date coming up, June 7th for us, and so there is a lot of running around going on for sure right now.
Now, when Jerry said, you know, to some people, running means, well, I try to run for 20 minutes 3 times a week. That is not the case with Jerry Clifton. Jerry, tell us about that. As the old saying goes, I don't know if it's a record, but it's a damn good average.
Well, it actually started on April 26th of 2020, the COVID year. And one of my running partners, Pam Willingham, we actually lived next door to each other. And so I had read an article in Runner's World magazine talking about doing a run streak and where you'd run like 30 days straight.
Right.
And so this morning when we went out there to run, I was telling her about the article. I said, let's do 30 days and see how it goes. And of course, Pam wasn't too fired up about running 30 days in a row. And so we did. We ran the 30 days. And then the next day would have been a day that we typically would have ran anyway. Right. And I said, well, we might as well just, run tomorrow, because it's typically what we'd run. She said, I knew this is what you would do. She said, I knew that's what you'd do. She said, I'll run 60 days if you want to run 60, but I'm stopping after 60. I said, okay. So we did 60. And then I said, everything's going good. We feel fine. Let's just keep going. She said, I knew that's what it was going to be. She said, I'll do 100 days and no more. Well, the 100 came, and then we said 200. And then she said, I'll do 1 year, and do not ask me to do a day over a year, because that's going to be it. And so we did a year. And so last week, April the 25th, I think it was when we celebrated it, was 5 years running without missing a day. So
I don't know if that's a record or not. We'll have to check with the Book of World Records, but I don't know too many people. Let's put it that way. It's kind of like what Bum Phillips said about Earl Campbell once. He said he may not be in a class by himself, but the class he's in, it don't take long to call the roll. So the class you're in, it doesn't take long to call the roll for you're in Pam's streak, which continues, we should add.
Yes, it continues. We ran this morning, so we're now at 1,800, and I think it's 38 days that we ran straight without missing. And it's starting to get to be a challenge, because I'm starting to have a little bit of a leg issue, but we're pushing through, because I just don't want to give up on the streak.
Okay. Now, when you say you run, I'm going to ask you how fast you run, because we don't run quite as fast as we used to.
That's right.
But distance, do you most times people, as you say, will maybe run 3 days, take a day off, et cetera, or maybe take a week off after a race, something like that. Mm-hmm. Do you vary your distances? I know you run every day, but do the distances vary?
Well, they do. They have varied a lot because of the fact that, we just run different distances. And like in October, we went to Massachusetts, and
Right.
we ran the Cape Cod half marathon up there. Then the next day, we drove down to Newport, Rhode Island, which is only about 45 miles apart, because it's small states. And on Sunday, we ran the Newport half marathon up there. So those are both 13.1 miles. So we ran in those 2 days. We ran like 26 and
ran a marathon. Just over
basically
2 days.
Ran a marathon in 2 days there. But because I like I said, I've been dealing with an injury, and so just to try to get myself well, I'm only doing 2 miles a day right now.
Okay.
Just to try to get my leg better. But typically, when we would run and I wasn't hurt, we would do, we'd do 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 miles, when we'd run.
Do you have in mind for people, because people say, I might kind of like to start running. I don't know if I can run 5 years in a row or not. But for people that want to get started, and they may not say I want to be like Jerry, but in fact, I don't know anybody that would. How do you start? You ease into it because you obviously didn't start off running like this. Take me through your running life.
Well, when I started, which I've always been active and stuff like that, but I was actually at Body Vision one day taking a Pilates class. And so after the class, there was some girls that was standing there, and they were talking about that they was going to be running on Saturday morning. And I just, as I walked by, I said, running is something I've never done. And they said, well, come run with us. And I said, oh, gosh, there's no way. There's just no way I can run. And they said, yeah, you can. We're not going to run but 3 miles. I said, you can do it. And so anyway, they just kept on. And so I came up there that morning, and we ran those 3 miles. Now, I ran that probably, before I stopped, I probably ran about a mile. And then I had to stop and see if I was going to die or not. Right. And then, we pushed on through and got those 3 miles in. And it was something about when I finished that I thought, I really enjoyed this. And so then the next week I ran every day. I might not have ran 3 miles, but I ran every day. And then that just started, where I'm at today. I just, once I started, I just started building more and more and more. And probably, I think I'd been running about 2 years, and I was going to do my first half marathon. And so I did it in Nashville. It was the Rock and Roll Marathon in Nashville, and they had 45,000 runners up there.
I've run the Rock and Roll.
Okay, so you know how big it is.
Yeah, it's big.
And then so the next year, I thought, for runners to run a full marathon, that's less than 1% of everybody who runs. Less than 1% of people will run a full marathon. So I decided I was going to do that. And so I ran my first full marathon in Birmingham, the Mercedes in Birmingham. And that was in 2010. And so, and I literally thought I was, going to die by the time that thing was over.
Right.
And, but anyway, and then since that time I think we ran 7 full marathons. And then we've done so many halves. I don't even keep up with them anymore because we go, we've kind of started now going to different states. We ran one of the prettiest marathons that we've ever ran was in California at Big Sur. And that was just gorgeous.
Has a great reputation.
Just a beautiful, beautiful, because you're basically running the entire, Pacific Coast Highway. And so it was great. And, the thing about it was, there's actually, they closed that highway for this marathon. And so there's a time limit. And they tell you, when you register, that there's a certain point that you've got to be at.
Right.
And if you're not there at that point, then they'll load you up in a bus.
They pull you off the course.
Yeah, and pull you off the course and take you to the finish line. And so there was about 6 of us went out there and did that. And I was just telling them as we was training, I said, look, I'm not getting on no bus. I said, we've got to be at this cutoff spot at whatever time it was. And so we was. It was so funny when we got to where it was at. These guys were standing there with tuxedos on, and had the timing strip across the street. And of course, here was these buses to haul anybody that didn't make it. And so when we went across that strip, he told us, he said, y'all got it made. Said, y'all can walk the rest of the way right now if you want to, because there was only about 3.5 miles left.
Right.
And so anyway, but it was that was a great marathon that we've done out there. And then, of course, we've run them in Utah and Arizona and Montana. I mean, I don't even know. Honestly, I'd have to just sit down and think about what states we have ran in.
I found back in my running days, and an injury has kind of precluded, let's say ended, my running anymore. That ended in an obstacle course race, which I discovered I had amnesia and forgot I was old and clumsy. So I mistakenly entered a obstacle course race and broke my ankle in 3 places.
Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
that kind of ended my running. But I have run in really what has come to be known regionally, if not nationally, as one of the top courses, top races, and that's our reason for being here in large part, is the Freedom Run. Mm-hmm. Now, tell me about the Freedom Run. It's a great run. What inspired you to start the Freedom Run, and tell us what it is for those who don't know.
Well, the Rainsville Freedom Run, this is our 17th year, and it was started. I was a member of Rainsville First Baptist Church, mm-hmm. and so they came to me and asked me about doing a 5K to help raise money for mission work, because mm-hmm. It was a mission church. And so we decided that's what we would do. We'd do a 5K race. And so we started looking at routes, and the route that we came up on actually started behind Broadway Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. And so Broadway, was very gracious to let us use their facilities for the race, and that's where we actually started and finished the race at. That first year, we had 175 participants in it, and it turned out really well. So then the next year, we did it again, and I think we had maybe like 225, something like that. And so then it kept growing each year, and so I think it was about probably year 3 or 4, the church came to me and they said, hey, look, there's so many people involved with this thing now. Why don't you just, we're not going to worry about, the money we're going to do for missions. We're good. Why don't you just find some charities, right, and give the money to charity? And I said, okay, that's what we'll do. So then I also had another friend suggest to me to add a 10K to it. They said, if you'll do a 10K, that'll help grow that race. Right. And so
5K for those of you, it's 3 miles, and the 10K's 6, give or take.
Yeah, that's right. And so we as it turned out, the 10K course worked in perfectly, looping in behind the 5K. So it was just a meant to be situation. And so obviously that did start growing our numbers, because we had people come in to do that 10K. And then, I had another friend suggest to me, they said, if you'll start giving money away, you'll actually get more runners. And I said, well, I just don't really want to have to pay anybody to come do this race. And he said, you'll pick up more people if you'll give some prize money away. And of course, we were already doing door prizes and stuff like that,
right? Which is donations,
right? Donations,
local merchants,
right? But so I decided that next year we would do some prize money. And so we did, and sure enough, we started getting, runners coming in farther distances away,
serious runners.
Serious runners. And so we kept doing that. And then I think it was probably about, let's see, I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago or 9 years ago, after the race one day, I was going up. We had, at this point at Broadway, we had outgrown their fellowship hall. And so they said, Jerry, put everything up in the worship center, because you're going to have it because it's gotten so big.
Right.
So I was on my way up to the worship center, and there was this guy stopped me, and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know this is my first time to ever come here and do this, and I absolutely love this race. It is just fantastic." And I said, "Well, thank you so very much." And so I went on, and so a couple of weeks later, he called me, and he said, "Jerry, I can't get this race off my mind." He said, "I want to help you." And I said, "Well, what can you do for me?" And he said, "Well, I coach runners all over the country." And he said, "The amount of money that you give away," he said, "I can get you elite runners to come here to run your race." And he said, "If I can do that," he said, "then that's going to even help grow your race even that much more."
Right.
And so that's what he did. His name was Kyle Putman. He lives in Birmingham. And so he started recruiting, runners from overseas, from like all states all over the country. We've had them from France, Kenya. It's just England, Canada. It's been incredible, where he has brought in runners to come to Rainsville. And so in 2020, during COVID, we actually didn't have the race that year.
Right.
And so some more folks came to me and they said, "Jerry, you have just outgrown Broadway. And, you're going to actually hurt the race if you don't move it. You're going to need to move it to the Civic Center." And of course I didn't want to do that because the routes that we had was just
put you out there on the highway.
Yeah, it was just perfect. And so during that time of us knowing we wasn't going to do the race, I went and started to look at routes. And it just so happened the 10K course was basically the same course that we'd ran in the past, except it was reversed. And by reversing it, it actually made it even more difficult. Mm-hmm. And most people who run a 10K, they want a difficult course to run.
Right.
And so the 5K course changed completely, but it became more difficult than the old 5K course. So we moved it to the Civic Center, and we continued to see it grow and grow and grow in numbers. Last year, we had 1,236.
From 100 and something.
From 175 to 1,236. And from just local people to last year, we had from 5 foreign countries and 15 different states. And we gave $50,000 away to charity. We've now given over $500,000 since we've been doing it to local charities. And this year, our numbers are, for this same time last year, we're over 100 more registered than we were last year. So I'm hoping that, we had 1,236 last year. I'm hoping, to see maybe 13 something or 14, this year. And the good thing about it, I have people, because of how big our race is, I have people contact me all the time that wants to do a 5K and to help raise money for whatever. And I tell them, you've got to have organization, and you've got to have quality of runners, and you've got to have quantity. So you got to have those three things in order to be really, really successful. And we're very fortunate. I tell this to the city of Rainsville every time that I go and talk to them, because the city of Rainsville, they will do whatever is necessary to help make us successful with this race. The police and the fire departments, street departments, all of their folks, they do whatever it is that we need to have done to be successful. And we have really, really good sponsors that help pay for the race, because, every year as the race grows, it becomes more expensive to put on. A lot of people think, well, the more people you got, the more money you can give away. And that's true to some degree, but it costs you more money to be able to do that. And we're very fortunate that the second year that I had the race, because after we had that 175, I thought that it was going to be something special. And so I thought, okay, we've got to get a timing company to come in here, because all we was doing, we had coaches from Plainview, Coach Pruitt and all them standing out there with stopwatches, timing people as they came across. And I'm about to, have a heart attack thinking, holy cow, I hope we don't mess none of this up. And so the second year I knew we was going to have a professional timing company. So I got out and started researching, and I found this company in Memphis, Tennessee. Their company's name's Best Times. And so they time big races all over the Southeast. I mean, they would time Mercedes. They've timed Mercedes in the past.
Right.
And other big races. And then, of course, they do smaller races too. But so anyway, so I met the owner of them. His name was Steve Stone, or is Steve Stone. And so they came down and started working with us, and they've been with us for 16 years. And so they'll be back this year. And so, we just have tremendous sponsors that help fund the race. And then we have just great support of local businesses and individuals. I mean, I could be in a grocery store and somebody would walk up to me and give me $100 bill and say, hey, Jerry, I want to give you $100 for the Freedom Run. And so the outpouring of support, for this run is just incredible. It's just a great family community event.
Right.
And you don't have to be a runner to participate.
That was my next question.
Because if you look at, we've got videos of the 5K and the 10K start of it. And if you look at the 5K, last year, I think we had probably 800 and something in the 5K. And if you watch the start of that 5K race, all those folks in the front are running.
Right.
But the farther back you go, as those people come across, they're walking. And, so they may have their dogs on leash. They may be pushing their kids in a stroller. They're there to support the community, support the event. And then they also, have an opportunity, like this year, we're going to give away door prizes. Now, not prize money to the fastest runners,
right,
but door prizes. We're going to give away $14,000 in door prizes. And the bulk of that is going to be $100 bills. I could name off what gifts that we've got that's not $100, because it's just not that many of them. Most everything is $100 bills because, $100 goes anywhere.
Right.
You can spend $100 in any store. So anyway, it's just a great event. And like I said, the money all goes to local charity. And I think that's another thing about the Freedom Run that makes it so appealing, is because people know where that money goes to.
Right.
And they can see it actually working. And, it just makes so much difference, and I have people, they ask me, all the time, they say, why do you do this? Why are you doing this? And, and this is what I tell them. When I was growing up, I do not ever remember a Christmas, me not having something under the Christmas tree.
Right.
There's kids in this community that if it wasn't for the Freedom Run and other charities that give, they would not have anything for Christmas. And I don't ever remember going to sleep and not being able to sleep in a bed. And there's children in DeKalb County that don't even have a bed to sleep in.
Right.
And one charity that we give to, that we just met last year, It's a charity called the Father's House. And they basically work with women with addiction. And a lot of these women are sent there through the courts. I mean, it's a great organization. Katina Blanchett is the executive director of that. They've been in business for 6 years. And in those 6 years, they have returned to mothers 141 kids.
Wow.
So there's 141 children that have been reunited with their mothers because of the fact of the Father's House. And that's a charity that we started giving to last year, and we're going to give to again this year. And, we give money to the Summit down here, which does something very similar of what the Father's House does. And then we give money to Mark for Life, that. And, one of the other charities that we give to that we've been giving for several years is Rainsville Community Church. Kate's Knowles and those folks, they go twice a year to Uganda and dig freshwater wells because the people of Uganda, they don't even have any fresh water over there. And if it wasn't for them going and digging these wells. And so we started working with them several years ago. And so I don't remember how many years ago it was, but I asked them one day, I said, how much money does it take, to actually dig a well? Yeah. And I think it was at that time, it was around $7,000. And I told them, I said, I want us someday to be able, the Freedom Run, to be able to dig a well over there that we can say this was the Rainsville Freedom Run well. And so we did that, I think, 3 years ago. And we did it last year, and we're going to do it again this year. So it's exciting to know that, that this community is in Uganda helping make a difference to those people over there to be able to have fresh water because, you didn't think anything about your water if it was going to make you sick or anything today when you got up to drink some water or make your coffee or brush your teeth or take a shower or any of that kind of thing you do. You just don't think about your water being a poison to you. And over there, that's exactly what those people deal with. So even though it's in Uganda, it's local people from Rainsville Community Church that are actually going there doing that. And, we give money to the Cab Animal Shelter because, everybody loves their pets. And so we give money to them, and Women's Care Center here in Fort Payne, we give money to them. So there's just several charities, that the Rainsville Freedom Run gives to, and there's even more. I mean, I constantly get asked every year about if there's any way that we can help them, and it's just the fact that we only have so many dollars that we can give. So that's why we're continuing to try to grow the race. We open the registration on January the 1st, and I start working on it on January the 1st, and we'll work on it every day till June 7th this year when the race starts. And, we'll do an early packet pickup on Friday evening from 4 to 8 before the race on that Saturday morning. And so on Friday evening and then Saturday, we will have, we'll probably have between 150 and 200 volunteers in the community just to come and help run water stations or help with food or, just anything that's needed that day. And so that's one of the reasons, we were actually named, I don't know, maybe a half dozen years ago, I guess, the best small race in America. And I think that's, it's a testimony of what this community is. So when I say community, I'm not necessarily just saying Rainsville community. I'm talking about this community, the community of people that we have, whether they come out of Huntsville or whether they come out of Birmingham or where they come from Texas or Ohio or wherever they come from. It's a community of people coming together to help make a difference for someone that's in need.
So I was going to say, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because Valerie McLean is a friend of mine we called her the mother of our marathon. She started the Mercedes Marathon. And Valerie always made the point of pointing out that she couldn't do the race without the volunteers. So if someone, if they said, well, I just can't run even 3 miles, or I can't even walk 3 miles, they can come and volunteer. And if nothing else, because, for speaking, you look for those aid stations and you always thank those aid workers, because they are, in part, at least, the lifeblood. You can't do it. Jerry can't be everywhere.
Right. That's right.
As hard as you try. So the Freedom Run now is there, can you register on race day? Is there a cutoff on registration?
No, you can still register all the way up to race morning. We'll be there. We'll have our registration folks will be there at 6:00 that morning, and we'll continue to register people till probably about 7:30, and then we just got to cut it off then in order to get everybody in the system and making sure that the timing's right and all of that. So and they can, of course, they can still register online. You can go to Run Sign Up, and it's Run Sign Up Rainsville Freedom Run 10K 5K, and it'll take you right to the site, and you can register online. That's the easy way to do it. But I mean, if you think you're going to be out of town and Friday, the day before, you just say, hey, I'm going to be here, then come on up. You can register that night while we're doing the packet pickup, or you can come that morning and register, and everybody gets a shirt, and so it's going to be a fun day.
And there's a really for those as I recall, I mean, the name Freedom Run, but I remember my year that I ran it. There's kind of a patriotic component to it, hence the name Freedom Run too. So you can start your Independence Day celebration. You can kick it off in Rainsville, Alabama.
Right. That's exactly right.
And if anybody says, again, Jerry says he gets this question a lot. Why do you do it? Well, some people wear their heart on their sleeve. Jerry wears his excuse on his sleeve. Show him your sleeve, Jerry. There's a reason he does this.
There you go.
And it just says, I'm crazy. And why not? So again, Jerry, Clifton, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and running by to visit with us. And good luck with your knee. And people can follow you and follow your progress. And I know you'll be promoting the Freedom Run, and there's a link there. Where you're on Facebook.
On Facebook, they can find me on Facebook. It'll be just my name, Jerry Clifton, or we actually do have my running group, Jerry's Crazies, is on there. You can follow it, and and again, like I said, come out and join us. Whether or not you want to do the 5K, the 10K, or you want to help volunteer, we'd love to have you.
Or just as I always say, there's always any race I've ever been in, there's a big crowd at the start line.
Right.
And there's a lot of cheering going on. I'm saying, we don't need you at the start line. We all fired up when the race is starting. Where we need you is out there. If you're running the 10K and you're 4 miles in, we need you out there cheering. So if you can't do anything else, and I speak from experience, and I think Jerry will back me up, it means so much just to have people out there on the course
cheering you on.
Cheering you on. And
Absolutely.
that just does it. That's gotten me through a lot of races, is those folks that are out there cheering us on.
Well, so, let me. I don't want to run you over, but let me tell you this one story about cheering you on. When I ran my first marathon in Birmingham, Mercedes, my goal was to beat 5 hours. That was what I wanted to try to do. And so I was running, and I mean, I could hear them. I could hear the crowd cheering, so I knew that I was less than a mile, but I honestly thought I was going to die. I mean,
you were at that turn.
I mean, yeah, I was there, and I just knew that I just didn't know if I could do it or not. And there was this girl comes up beside me, and she says, "Man, you're doing great." And I said, well, I think I'm going to die. And she said, is this your first time to run a full? I said, yes. And I said, I wanted to make under 5 hours, but I'm just not going to be able to do it. And she said, what's your name? And I said, Jerry. And she said, yes, you will. She said, follow me. And so she literally screamed my name out across the finish line. And I ran it in like 4:57 was my time. And after I finished, I looked for her to tell her, say thank you for encouraging me. Could not find the girl anywhere. She did her job. She got me across, and then she went on.
That means so much to a runner.
It does. It really does.
So come out. If you don't do anything else, come out and cheer the runners on. And I think Jerry will back me up on this. The Freedom Run is June the 7th.
June the 7th.
And in Rainsville, Alabama, you can go to Rainsville Freedom Run. Just follow Jerry on Facebook. And I'll just say this, speaking on Jerry's behalf, you don't have to be crazy to do this, but it helps. So, Jerry, thank you so much again for coming and spending some time with us on Fred Hunter's Alabama. And we'll see you at the race.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to the latest edition of Fred Hunter's Alabama, starring Jerry Clifton.